Hey, Manny. Just right here. Fran, how you doing? Shabbat shalom. It's great to see you. Oh, I gotta get this. It's tough having a beard with these on. You know, it's not. That's good. That feels much better. Yeah. Ugh. Yeah. No. No. It's serious stuff. It's serious stuff. Oh, is that true? Suffolk County's the worst? Oh, jeez. I didn't realize that. Hey, Ribbling, Shabbat Shalom. Some great pictures. You got like some really amazing pictures and like action shots. You know, I mean that was like I didn't realize you were able to be in there while they were like actually doing stuff. That's isn't it amazing? It's the yeah. No, as a matter of fact, that's I think that actually is some of the plan. You know, that is yeah, that's true. You know what? Give me 1 second, guys. I think that I may have forgotten to print out the Kaddish list. Let me just go make sure I didn't miss it somewhere. I will be right back. I saw your email. I just haven't had a chance to respond. The only challenge is the weekend that you were proposing. So, okay, good. So we'll try. I have basically like all of my weddings this summer seem to all be in June. So that's the only thing that makes it a little bit tricky. But just yeah. Oh, good. So we can talk about. Okay. So let me know then when would be a good time to go over there. If you know, give her the day to adjust. But when do we have to make a decision by? I think. Got it. Okay. Well, I hear that. How is it outside? How is it outside right now? Yeah. Well, not so nice. It looked so like earlier today was amazing. Earlier today was amazing outside. I thought this is a good example of what it'll be in a couple of weeks, but uh, it's not to be. All right. Okay. Hey, Jim and Judy. The Scots one, the guy that you played tennis with the father. Yes, but they just sort of changed it up, so we're trying to figure out exactly when to do it. But it's most likely, I think either the Monday or the Tuesday, first Monday or Tuesday in June, like the 5th or 6th. You can't hear me at all? Can you hear me? Michael, can you hear me? Mimi, can you hear me? Can't hear me at all. Interesting. Bonnie, Ira, you can hear me? Okay, so several rows back you can hear me. That's good. I'll have to use my booming voice then. Booming voice. Boom. Next week, the plan is, weather accommodating, we'll be right outside in the front. Just right, basically, bring your own chairs, though. That's the important piece of it. Bring your own chairs. So, weather accommodating, from Memorial Day on, the service will be outside the front steps there, so we can be outside. And if not, then it'll be right inside. Same basic thing. I thought next weekend is Memorial Day. Right? No, Memorial Day is Monday, obviously, but that Shabbat is our Memorial Day. Right. I'm not crazy. Okay, good. Because the next weekend has a Shavuos, and then it's really off and running. Okay, well, good Shabbos to everybody. It's great to see all of you. It's great to be back in our space, and we're looking forward tonight to, in addition to celebrating Shabbat, celebrating our graduates. At least some of them will be here with us in space, and some of us will be watching at home online. But an amazing group of young people, and hopefully some words that will be meaningful to them, but also to all of us as well in just a little bit. So before we get started with any of that, though, we'll warm ourselves up a little bit. We'll do a little bit of singing our old warm-up tunes. Hey, Mindy, good Shabbos. 6:30 next week. Don't worry, I'll make all the announcements about next week when we get to the end. First, we'll make our way through. Yallai lai lai la la lai yallai lai lai la la lai yallai lai lai la lai 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 ai lai lai la lai lai yallai lai lai la lai lai ai lai lai la lai 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 Shabbat Shalom Shabbat Shalom Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. Yallai lai lai la la lai, yallai lai lai la la lai, yallai lai lai la lai lai, lai lai lai. Ay lai lai la la lai, yallai lai lai la lai lai, ay lai lai la lai lai lai. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. Good Shabbos to everyone here. Good Shabbos to all of our friends watching at home. So one quick note for those that are watching at home. If you have been accustomed to using the flipbook version, the free version of our prayer book online, the way it was explained to us is that some of that was copyrighted material that was graciously extended during the worst parts of COVID, but is starting to come to an end. So they actually took our version off, and there is now just the Shabbat version, and at some point in the not-so-distant future, that will also disappear. But for the time being, you can still use that online version. You're just looking at the page numbers in brackets, as opposed to the page numbers that you see that are regularly listed. Those will match up with the ones that we're using here. And you're really, if you're really confused about anything, use the table of contents. That will always get you there faster. And we're in the middle of figuring out a longer-term solution for any of our members to be able to borrow books if they would need to, or to buy versions for themselves at a discounted rate. So, again, anybody watching at home and following with the flipbook version, you're just making sure that you're following on the bracketed numbers, and that will match up. So we'll begin our service by lighting and blessing our Shabbat candles on page 120. Again, page 120. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu להדליק נר, להדליק נר של Shabbat. That's where you say amen. There. We're going to work on that. Can't say amen in a mumble. You got to say it with gusto, with conviction. Amen. There we go. Much better. Thank you. That's very good. All right. Page 130 will begin our service of Kabbalat Shabbat at the very top of the page. Lechu ner hanena, lechu ner hanena, lechu ner hanena l'Adonai. Lechu ner hanena, lechu ner hanena, lechu ner hanena l'Adonai. Naria, naria, letzur yishenu, nekadma fanav betodah. Naria, naria, letzur yishenu, bizmihirot naria lo. Lechu ner hanena, lechu ner hanena, lechu ner hanena l'Adonai. Lechu ner hanena, lechu ner hanena, lechu ner hanena l'Adonai. We'll turn now to page 131, Shiru l'Adonai, in the middle of the page. Shiru l'Adonai, shiru shir chadash, shiru l'Adonai, kol haaretz, shiru l'Adonai, baruchu shemo, basru meyom leyom, yeshuato, shiru l'Adonai, baruchu shemo, basru meyom leyom, yeshuato, shiru l'Adonai, shiru shir chadash, shiru l'Adonai, kol haaretz, shiru l'Adonai, baruchu shemo, basru meyom leyom, yeshuato, shiru l'Adonai, baruchu shemo, basru meyom leyom, yeshuato. We'll turn now to page 132, or Zaru, at the very bottom of the page. Or zaru ala tzadik, ulehishrei lev simcha. Or zaru ala tzadik, ulehishrei lev simcha. Simchu tzadikim b'Adonai, Vehodu lezecher kodsho. Simechu tzadikim Adonai, Vehodu lezecher kodsho. We're now on page 134. Zamru l'Adonai bechinor, bechinor vekol zimra, v'chatzotzrot vekol shofar. Hahariu lifnei hamelech Adonai, Yiram hayamum lo, Tevel veyoshveva. Neharot imchahu chaf yachad, Harim yiranenu. Lifnei Adonai kiva, lishpot haaretz, yishpot tevel betzedek, ve'amim b'mesharim. Yiram hayamum lo, tevel veyoshveva. Neharot imchahu chaf yachad, harim yiranenu. We'll turn now to page 135, Romamu, which is the last Hebrew paragraph in the middle of the page. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו, כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו רוממו. כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו רוממו. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו. We'll turn now to page 136. מזמור לדוד. הבו לאדוני בני אלים, הבו לאדוני כבוד ועוז, הבו לאדוני כבוד שמו, השתחוו לאדוני בהדרת קודש. כל אדוני על המים, אל הכבוד ירים אדוני על מים רבים, אדוני על מים רבים. כל אדוני בכוח, כל אדוני בהדר, כל אדוני שובר הרזים, וישבר אדוני את ארזי הלבנון. וירקידם כמו עגל, לבנון וסיריון, כמו בן רמים, כמו בן רמים. כל אדוני חוצב להבות אש, כל אדוני יכיל מדבר, יכיל אדוני מדבר קדש. כל אדוני יחולל איילות, ויכסוף יערות ובכלו, כולו מרכבות, כולו מרכבות, כולו מרכבות. אדוני למבול ישב, וישב אדוני מלך לעולם. אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום. We'll turn to Lecha Dodi on page 138. And reminder, we'll do the first, second, fifth, and ninth paragraphs. And for the last one, we will rise and face towards the rear of the room. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachur b'dibur echad, Ishmianu el hamiuchad, Adonai echad, u'shemo echad, L'shem u'tiferet ve'litila. Lecha Dodi, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, כי מקור הברכה מהראש מקדם נסוכה סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה. Fifth paragraph. התעוררי כי באורך ומיורי אורי שיר דברי כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה. בואי בשלום עטרת בעלה גם בשמחה ובצהלה תוך אמוני העם סגולה. בואי חלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה. Okay, please be seated. We're now on page 140, the Hebrew just as it indents in the middle of the page. Tzadik katamar yifrach keres balbanon yiske shetulim bevet Adonai bechatzrot Eloheinu yafrichu od yenuvun beseva deshenim verananim yiyu lehagid ki ashar Adonai tzuri velo hablata bo. We'll rise in body or spirit as we turn to page 144 for the Chatzi Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba be'alma divrach yirtei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon u'b'yomechon u'b'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael b'agala u'bizman kariv v'imeru. Amen. Yesh me Rabba mevarach le'alam li'al me'al maya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitbar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalal shemei dekudsha b'richu leila min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata Tamiran behalmam veimeru. Amen. Remain standing for the Baruch Hu on page 146. Baruch Hu et Adonai habevorach. Baruch Adonai hamvorach leolam vahen. Okay, please be seated. We'll turn to page 149 and we'll read together in English at the bottom of the page. This is an hour of change. Within it we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? Umavir yom umevi laila, umavdil ben yom uven laila, Adonai tzvaot shemo. El chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, amari v'aravim. We'll read together now on the top of page 151 in English. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Ki ehem chayenu ve'orech yameinu v'hem negei yomam v'layla v'avatcha al tasir mimenu li'olamim baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Please join me on page 154. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol meodecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'eleh Asher anochi metzavcha hayom al levavecha v'shinatam levanecha b'dibarta bam v'shiftecha b'veitecha u'v'lechtecha b'derech u'shochbecha u'vkumecha u'kshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'ninecha u'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'v'hisharecha Leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'item kedoshim le'Elohechem Ani Adonai Elohechem Asher hotzeiti etchem mi'eretz Mitzrayim li'hot lachem le'Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem Adonai Elohechem Emet. Let's read together on the top of page 157 in English. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. As we turn to page 158, the top of the page, Mi Chamocha. Yabbai bye bim 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 bam, yabbai bye bim bam, yabbai bye bim 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 bam, yabbai bye bim bam, yai bye ba 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 bye, yabbai bye bim bam, yai bye ba 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 bye, yabbai bye bim bam. Mi chamocha bailim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Nor tehilot osefele, nor tehilot osefele. Yabai bye bim 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 bam, yabai bye bim bam, yabai bye bim 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 bam, yabai bye bim bam, yai bye ba 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 bye, yabai bye bim bam, yai bye ba 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 bye, yabai bye bim bam. Malchutecha ra'u vanecha bokeam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam zeli anu ve'amru Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed v'nemar kifad Adonai et Yaakov u'golo miad chazak mimenu baruch atah Adonai gal Yisrael. Now on the top of page 161. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up, waiting to do your will. We turn back to page 160, Hashkivenu at the top of the page. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu shomereinu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu shomereinu lechaim. Ushmor tzeiteinu uvoeinu lechaim u'shalom me'ata v'ad olam. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu shomereinu lechaim. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Yerushalayim. We turn to page 162, Vishamer at the very top of the page. Veshamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam Einai beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim v'et haaretz uvayom hashevim Shabbat, Shabbat v'inafash. I invite everyone now to rise in body or spirit as we begin the Amidah together on page 164, and then from that point continue silently. As always, please go at your own pace, and if you're standing, you may be seated at the end. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Oseh shalom bimromav, Uyaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. Yaseh shalom, Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. We'll turn now to page 371 as we offer our Mishaberach, our prayer for healing for this evening. In addition to our continued prayers for the people of Ukraine, this evening we are also thinking of Sydney Ross, Roberta Kyle, Rivka Bat Yehuda Vabela, Eve Rose, Michoel Ben Hananya, David Kyle Klotman, Bentzi Tepper, Samuel Moskowitz, Devorah Batsima, Michael Klinghoffer, Norma Polsak, Amy Cass, Steve Levine, Rivka Bat Rachel, Gail Gambino, Leah Bat Naomi, Gedalia Ben Sylvia, Lorraine Danis, David Dowling, Sibia Devorah Bat Francis, Myra Peskowitz, Chaim Leib, Deborah Block-Kroll, Sylvia Orn, Michelle Sawicki, Francis Kirschman, Paul Eric Feuden Bat Esther, Shelley Newmark, Diane Axelrod, Gabriella Rose Spicer, and Dina Bat Chana. In addition to the names that we just mentioned, we'll invite those in the room with us tonight to share additional names if you choose. We'll start on this side of the room and then work towards the back and then this side of the room. If you have names to share, please raise a hand. I'll invite those watching at home to add additional names as well. We'll join together on page 371 in the middle of the page as we offer our Mishaberach together. Mishaberach avotenu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishaberach imotenu mekor habracha Lavotenu, bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. And as I said, this is not just any Shabbat. This is a highlight of the year, I think, for any of us who are privileged enough and lucky enough to call ourselves teachers and to be able to celebrate. I know Julian pointed out expected graduation. It hasn't actually happened yet, but knowing this particular group, we have no worries to be concerned about. If it was me back then, it might have been a different story. But for you guys, we know it is just a matter of time. It is a when, not an if scenario. And I want to acknowledge just at the outset our four wonderful, incredible students. Jackson Bakes, who is here with us tonight, Izzy Hosey, who's watching from home, Julian Link Morris, who's right here as well, and Jessica Miller, who also we hope is watching at home. And the four of you, who I've known pretty much since I got here. I feel like we've all actually grown up together in that way. And so it's a bittersweet moment for us, again, all of your teachers, because we know we're not going to see you as much as we have been able to see you over the last few years. But we're really just excited to celebrate you. And I wanted tonight to try, as best as I can, to share some of our tradition's wisdom as you move forward in your life and as you move on to this next very exciting stage as you will attend colleges in the fall and begin really again your sort of you're already on that path, but the opportunity to grow in a way that is unique and different, having been able to move to new places, to meet new people, and to learn new things. So I want to share 4 core texts with you and 4 core ideas. And these are things that, again, are deeply embedded within Jewish wisdom, with the ways in which our people have approached the transitions of life, and in particular the ones that center around our growth moments, the ones in which we are, either by our design or by the accidents of nature, pushed into a new direction. So how do we go into those new spaces, which can sometimes be intimidating, maybe even a little bit scary because we don't know? So here's a little bit of wisdom I hope that will mean something to you, certainly to Julian, to Jackson with us tonight, and to Jessica and to Izzy watching at home, and I hope also to all of us, because, some of us may not be, will be further away from college than closer, but I think these are teachings that are actually timeless and universal. So the first is, and this is taught in many different ways throughout our tradition, but it is so core that it needs to come back to it over and over and over again, which is to really develop your capacity for gratitude, okay, for gratitude. So from here, we pull from a text from Pirkei Avot, from a section of the Mishnah, which we're already talking about is already almost 2,000 years old, and the wisdom of it probably predates even that point. And so in the chapter 4, verse 1 of Pirkei Avot, Rabbi Shimon ben Zoma, who lived, again, about 1,800 years ago or so, and he asks questions and then he responds to them. So he asks the first question, who is wise? And the answer is one who learns from every person. He asks, who is rich, who is wealthy? And he answers, the one who appreciates what one has. And he asks a final question, who is honored, right? Who is deserving of, in our tradition, what we call kavod? And he says, the one who gives honor to others. So here we have really 3 ideas, each of which in their own right is essential, and all together, again, points us towards this idea of developing and really feeding our sense of gratitude, of being grateful for not just the things we have, but the opportunities we have, the people that we interact with, and the opportunities for learning and for growth. And this question of wise, right, our tendency, especially as we go into university-level education, we look to our professors to be the wise ones, we look to the upperclassmen to be the wise ones, but wisdom in Judaism is not necessarily about how much time you have lived on the earth or how many diplomas you have on the wall. There are many, many people who are considered to be brilliant, wise people, but who don't listen to anyone else but themselves. And in that, they are actually a false wisdom according to our tradition. They may be book smart, they may have the credentials, but at the end, they have ceased the capacity to learn from each and every person that you interact with. And if you can go to a college campus and use that as your mindset and your perspective, then not just your professors, but your classmates, your friends, and even people who you may disagree with, that the capacity for learning exists each and every single day in each interaction that we have. And he asked the question again, who is wealthy, right? A lot of times as we think about education in this country in particular, the goal in mind is to get to some place where we determine our success by a dollar figure. It's not to suggest that those things don't have relevance or they're not important. But the end of it is really to appreciate, again, what we have, what you already are in possession of. And for our students, I know for a fact, because I've had the privilege of teaching you now for many years, what you already have is a remarkable thing. You are smart, you are capable, you are dedicated, you are driven, you are surrounded by families that love you, you have communities that care for you, you are going to schools that are excellent and will give you the education that you desire. All of these things already exist. The only thing it asks of you is to never forget that and to be grateful for each of those moments, and you will never, ever in your life feel poor or lacking in that way. And in the end, the question of who is honored, who is treated with respect or deserving of being treated with respect, is the person who returns that respect in twofold. It doesn't mean that you always have to respect every single person that you interact with, especially if they are disrespectful to you. But as a general principle in life, if you honor other people, if you treat them with respect, if you treat them with at least the capacity for honoring who they are and where they come from and what their perspectives may be, you will find that more often than not in your life, and especially in your college years, that you will get that honor returned to you, and oftentimes, many times, over. So in this case, we get, again, a concept of, you guys already know to be very grateful people, but don't lose that. When you go off to college, don't lose that beautiful inner sense that you already possess. The next is actually a very important thing at any time period, but I think is perhaps more important now than ever, which is to develop your capacity for discernment. Fancy word, indeed, but what does it mean to be discerning? So we go back again to Pirkei Avot, to chapter 3, and Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, one of the great rabbis, great sages of the Mishnaic era, says, "Where there is no knowledge, there is no discernment, and where there is no discernment, there is no knowledge." So what is this about? One of the challenges oftentimes is to know truth from fiction and everything in between, to be able to determine whether something that you are being taught by a certain person or by others, whether or not what they are sharing with you is in fact, let's use the word, true, whether it is actually something that you can trust in. And having the ability to discern that which is true from that which is false is not just what happens in the classroom. In fact, on college campuses, it's oftentimes a daily challenge of trying to figure out what is real and what is not. In friendships and relationships, in the classroom, certainly, all of these, every single day, you're going to be placed in positions in which you have to use and develop your own sense of discernment, of being able to determine the difference between one and the other. Now, it's not something, unfortunately, that can be taught in a one-to-one kind of way. Well, we hope over the years that you've been with us here that we have tried to instill in you a sense of where are the truths of the world and where to start to be concerned when you hear something that maybe doesn't sound right to you. Rather than accepting it as gospel, as unequivocal truth, it is your job to go the next step and to ask questions of it. So that means I want you, really, all four of you, to be at the forefront of your class and challenging your professors, the same way that you have challenged me in multiple occasions as your rabbi. Don't assume, even from somebody that you respect, that everything that you are hearing is unequivocally true. It's your job, again, as students, to pursue that greater truth and to develop as much as you can a sense of discernment. And just as Elazar ben Azariah teaches us, it can be a place that claims to have a lot of wisdom, but if everybody is just nodding their head in agreement with what's being said by the professor, it is not a place of wisdom. It is a place in which people have basically created a cult. You need to fight against that instinct and remember that each of you, even though you are students, you have much to teach your professors as well. The third, and I think this will be very relevant to at least a few people in the room, do not forget the wisdom of your parents or of your ancestors. We learn in Deuteronomy, in Devarim, in chapter 32, verse 7, we're told by God to remember the days of old, to consider the years of ages past, and to ask your parent who will inform you, and your elders who will tell you. This, of course, is one of the great secrets to the Jewish people, and the reason that we not just exist to this day, but we thrive, is because we have a built-in reverence for those that came before us, both generally speaking of our years and generations of Israelites and Hebrews and Jews and all of the people that have made up our people over time, but each of you within your own households have very wise parents, ones who have gone through a lot, who have learned. And while you may think you are completely free once you go to your campus and you're disconnected in that kind of way, don't forget to call home. Don't forget to share your challenges with them and your successes with them. And don't forget to also pick up the phone call when it comes in. I was notorious, I'm still sort of notorious for not picking up phone calls from my father, so much so that he used to leave messages on our answering machine that would go on so long that it would cut him off and then he'd call back and continue to leave the message. So for my roommates, we always found it very entertaining. But I regret that because I think there were a lot of times in college where if I had actually called my parents, I would have been able to have people who really know me to be able to guide me through what inevitably will be some challenges that emerge in your time at school. So don't forget, and don't forget also a little plug for the wisdom of our people. And each of you are going to colleges where on campus there is a Hillel, there is a great opportunity for Jewish engagement, for continuing to learn with other great rabbis, of which I know actually a few of them for where you're going. These are places that, in addition to your connection here and to your connection home, will also be a source of wisdom for you wherever it is that you may go and whatever it is that you may do. Now lastly, and this I think in the end is the most important, this is a reminder that what you are going to do when you get to school certainly is for yourself. It is to develop, again, your intellect, to develop your capacity for learning, to learn things about the world that you didn't know previously, to meet new friends, to make all sorts of experiences for yourselves. But college is not an answer in and of itself. It is, like most things, a developing stage. And we have to always be cognizant of the fact that while you are studying and while you are learning and while you're doing all the fun stuff that comes along with it, there is still a world around you, and a world that actually in many cases is a suffering world. And we saw this week, again, a terrible thing taking place in Buffalo, in which ideas lead to violence. And how we relate to these things and how we relate to the bigger questions of justice and of righteousness in this country and around the world oftentimes begins at a very young age. And we have one of the greatest disservices that we as a people in general have done is to convince our young people that they're not capable of making changes in the world, that they have to wait until they're adults to be able to do that, to wait until you're past college to do that. It's not true. It's the furthest thing from the truth. As a matter of fact, most of the great changes that take place are from young people just like yourselves, from people who motivate, who are not held back by the cynicisms and the sarcasm that develops with age. All of you have that potential to be fighters for justice and fighters against injustice. So I want to share with you some quotes from Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, mostly because, whenever you hear a rabbi teach anything, you're really hearing their teacher and their teacher's teacher beyond. So I'm very lucky in that I have two wonderful parents who I learned with, and my father in particular, who has treated me, really educated me in terms of being a rabbi. His teacher was Rabbi Heschel. And so Heschel had a great impact on him, and as a result had a great impact on me as well. And he wrote a book, and if you think, again, you have to wait until you're 40 or 50 years old to do big things, he wrote his doctoral thesis when he was in his later 20s, of which he created a book called The Prophets, all focused, again, on the books of the prophets of our tradition. And it's been a book that I've been studying with our community here for the last several years. And I want to share with you some sections from one of his chapters, which is on the idea and the concept of justice. He says as follows: "The fact that filled the prophets with dismay in their era was not the absence of adequate laws, but the absence of righteousness. Judges were active in the land, but their judgments were devoid of righteousness. The prophets were shocked not only by acts of injustice on the part of scoundrels, but also by the perversion of justice on the part of the notables. When warped and garbled, justice yields strife and distrust. The prophet's preoccupation," he says, "with justice and righteousness has its roots in a powerful awareness of injustice. That justice is a good thing, a fine goal, even a supreme ideal, is commonly accepted. What is lacking is a sense of the monstrosity of injustice. Moralists of all ages have been eloquent in singing the praises of virtue. The distinction of the prophets was in their remorseless unveiling of injustice and oppression, in their comprehension of social, political, and religious evils. They were not concerned with the definition, but with the predicament of justice, with the fact that those called upon to apply it defied it. Justice may be properly described as, quote, the active process of remedying or preventing what should arouse the sense of injustice. What is uppermost in the prophet's mind is not justice, quote, an ideal relation or static condition or set of perceptual standards, but the presence of oppression and a corruption. The urgency of justice was an urgency of aiding and saving victims of oppression." He concludes, "Justice is scarce, injustice exceedingly common. The concern for justice is delegated to the judges as if it were a matter for professionals or specialists. But to do justice is what God demands of every person. It is the supreme commandment, and the one that cannot be fulfilled vicariously." So what is Heschel saying in the end? That one of our primary, if our most important functions as part of the Jewish people are to be fighters against injustice. Not just to focus on justice in the positive sense, but to look around with open eyes and to see the world around you and to see what is wrong and to see where you can step in to help. And as I said, we do ourselves a disservice by suggesting that that has to wait, that that's something off in the distance, that you have to accumulate experience or degrees in order to be able to make the effect in the world that you want to see. But we know that's not true. And when you go to college, you're going to see it around you in various forms. You're going to see it in small ways and in big ways. Don't just go along with things. Don't just go along, especially when your friends may be doing something that you know is wrong. It takes a lot of courage to fight against injustice, and it doesn't always have to be gigantic things on the newspaper. A lot of times it's in simple moments where a person who knows better says nothing. You guys are wiser than that. Don't let the rhythm of the moment, don't let the desire for friendship override your sense and obligation to be fighters of injustice and to be champions of justice itself. So to recap, 4 things to take away as best as you can. To remember that always, always, always you should be grateful for the opportunity and to learn and to grow and to know that not all knowledge is learned in classrooms and from books, but oftentimes from engaging with people of different backgrounds, different perspectives, even if that leads sometimes to argument and disagreement. The second is that you will continue to develop the capacity, as I said, for discernment, to know truth from fiction and to question that which seems questionable and to even question that which seems marginal. Don't forget to stand up to your professors, at least from time to time, if not to remind them that they also have to continue to learn as well. Third, of course, is, like I said, don't forget to call home from time to time. Don't forget to pick up that phone call, but not just to talk over things, to check in on each other, but to actually have those deeper conversations. As you grow, as you develop, you will find yourself in more and more situations in which the wisdom of your parents will be a great gift to you. Don't leave it to the side. Fourth, of course, is to remember that knowledge is worth nothing if you're ambivalent to the suffering around you. And as I said, stand up. Be an active voice. Be what you actually have already proven to be many times over while living here with us in this community. And lastly, just to never forget, speaking of community, that your community loves you, that your rabbi cares about you, that your friends will be your friends no matter where you go. And if you need anything, you call us. You need advice? If I have it to give me a call. I hope at some point I can actually, you guys at least on the East Coast can come up and visit at some point, but we're only a phone call away. So if you need help, don't forget to reach out. So with all of that, I wish you all really nothing but simcha, nothing but joy, nothing but nachas for your family of great respect and admiration for what you've achieved and what you will continue to achieve. And if we can ask now, I'm going to invite up your true teacher, our Hebrew school director, Shelley Lichtenstein. And Julian and Jackson, would you mind coming up? I'm going to put my mask on. And Sally and Sharon and Emily, if you guys want to come up too, that would be really, really wonderful. Just mask up. We have a few things to give you and our blessing as you go on your way. And just there's another set of stairs. I feel like I'm going to fall off of this thing this week, but. Okay. Now, Shelley, you can take this one. Just give me 1 second to get our wireless mic. Okay. So you just talk and I'll hold. Okay.
So this is a really, really special moment for both Rabbi Dan and I. For me, Julian, I know him pre-bar mitzvah. He was a tiny little guy many, many years ago, and Jackson from his bar mitzvah on. And I'm just so proud of you. I'm really proud of you because the two of you have really chosen. Maybe parents sometimes suggested, but you really have chosen to be present. And that's one of the lessons Rabbi Dan has always taught us. Be present. Don't just sort of do it, be present. So if we had an event, Julian and Jackson's response was, sure, Shelley, I'll be there. They responded to my text, which was wonderful, very exciting. The parents said they did. I said, yeah, they do. So I really, really do appreciate that you've chosen to be here for 4 years, post bar mitzvah. I always say that a bar mitzvah opens another door, and you've proven it. You really have done that. So kol hakavod to you, really, congratulations to you. And we have a little gift for you, which is a chamsa, which is a hand. And the reason we chose that is it protects you. It really protects you. As you go out in the big world, you're going to be on a college campus. We hope this will stay close to your heart and will remind you of some of the wisdom that Rabbi Dan has given you over the years, and that we are here always. As Rabbi Dan said, we're a phone call away, but we really do mean that. We're a text away. So if you have something going on, just call us. And if Rabbi Dan doesn't answer, you text me and I'll get him to call you. So really, that's really important to us. And Rabbi Dan mentioned Hillel. I tell you what, if for nothing else, Friday night dinner, a great Shabbos dinner, Hillel will always have one for you. It's a great grounding place for you to go. It's a great place for you to meet people. So I just say, both of you have done an amazing job. You know, once Jackson started driving, he was always helping with the food drives, but the minute Jackson was driving, he himself would drop off the food at Maureen's Haven. It was really awesome. Julian got the bun, if you remember the wood that we had, the firewood, that was Julian getting that going. And he was desperate to do a clothing drive. Unfortunately, we were in this building that just didn't allow it to happen. But I know both of you are going to go out there and do really fabulous things. So we are really proud of you. And I want to just give you the little gift.
So we're going to give you guys just a quick final blessing, and Shelley had a nice idea, which is to be able to hold a tallis over your head. So Julian Jackson, if you could just kind of come front and center, and let's see, Sally and Sharon, if you could grab the other end of this. Very good. Emily, you can help too. You can come and help. You guys are tall, so this is tough. It's always frustrating when your students get to be taller than you. It just never gets better. Okay, you're good. Emily, you're perfect. Actually, Emily, could you hold this end for me? That would be the best that way. Okay, so I'm going to give you a blessing which I gave you both at your bar mitzvahs, a long time ago it seems. One of our oldest blessings, the one that is often given by parents to children, and when lucky rabbis get to say goodbye to their friends. And its basic concept is, no matter where you go in life, that God's presence will follow you and be a source of joy and celebration and also of peace. And to remember that that extension of God is in each of the people that you call your family and your friends. And that all of that is always going to be with you and surround you. And I'll invite all of our friends who are with us here and those watching at home to put your good feelings, your blessings into these words as well. Yevarecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and guard you. Yair Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka. May God's presence shine down upon you and be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God's presence follow you always and be a source, as I said, of constant and loving peace. And together we say, Amen. Simen tov u'mazel tov, mazel tov u'simen tov, simen tov u'mazel tov, mazel tov u'simen tov, simen tov u'mazel tov, mazel tov u'simen tov. Yehi lanu, yehi lanu, yehi lanu. Ulechol Yisrael, Yehi lanu, Yehi lanu. Ulechol Yisrael, Yehi lanu, Yehi lanu. Ulechol Yisrael. Well, thank you guys. This was great. I really appreciate it. And Jackson's under there somewhere, I'm sure. Mazel tov, guys. Congratulations. And I think I will. I'll try to come up and visit you guys at some point. Thank you guys. Yeah, come here.
Thank you very much.
Proud of you, man. Proud of you. Proud of you both.
Thanks for the speech.
Keep up the good work. Thanks. All right, so Jackson will be at UMass Amherst, and Julian will be at Binghamton, and Jessica, we believe, is at FIT, and Izzy is at Wesleyan. So, really good schools. Someday somebody else will go to Wisconsin, but at least for now, it's just great. Just careful going down the steps, guys. So, from that, we're going to turn back in our prayer books to mark the counting of the Omer, which is on page 570, 570. And if you would be so kind to rise in body or spirit, and page 570. 6 days? 6 days more of counting. That's not how you count, man. You don't count backwards from it. You count towards it. That's the whole idea. Don't worry, I'll tell you. We are getting pretty close. It's not 6 days, though. It's coming close. Okay, page 570. Hineni mukhan umezuman lekayem mitzvat aseh shel sfirat haomer. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sfirat haomer. Hayom chamisha u'shloshim yom shehem chamisha shavuot la'omer. Today marks 35 days, which is 5 weeks of the Omer. We'll remain standing as we turn to page 586 at the bottom of the page, Aleinu l'shabech. Aleinu l'shabech ladon hakol, latet gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu kegoye haratzot, velo samanu kemishbechot adama, shelo samach elkenu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonaham, vanachnu korim, ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. Page 591. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו Ushemo echad. I'll invite those in mourning and those observing yahrzeit to please remain standing. Everyone else may be seated at this time. So I have to apologize. Somehow or another we lost or misplaced the Kaddish lists. It didn't quite make it into my hands. So anybody who is saying Kaddish tonight, either for yahrzeit or is remembering someone who's passed in recent months, we'll start on this side of the room and then this side of the room, and you can share any names that you'd like to share. And Morty Lynn. Yeah. And of course, we'll invite those watching at home to share names as well. And I'll invite the mourners to join me on page 598 and invite anyone who would like to rise in body or spirit as well. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. Be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael. B'agala v'zman kariv v'imru aben. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevarach le'alam u'le'almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yit hadar, v'yit aleh, v'yit halal, shemei dekudsha berichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, ta'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shalama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Zichronam livracha, may every one of their memories be for a blessing. Okay, please be seated, everyone. And again, Shabbat Shalom and a Mazel Tov to our graduates. As I didn't have the Kaddish list, I also don't have an announcement list, but I'm going to try my best to remember, and there are at least a few people in the room who can help me with some of the additional things to mention. First is, of course, to join us for Shabbat services tomorrow morning. Tomorrow will be the last Shabbat service that's virtual only. Beginning next Shabbat, we have Saturday mornings are back in person if you choose to join. Still, everything will be streamed as it always is. Torah study will remain virtual only. But you can join us again tomorrow on Zoom at 9:30. Torah study will begin at 12 o'clock. So I also want to acknowledge during the week, let's see how many things I can remember. Nina Mitzvah is at 11:30 on Monday. My Heschel class is at 12 o'clock on Monday. Hebrew school is at 3:30. Social justice having its meeting at 5 like usual? Okay. Yeah? Yes. Okay, Monday at 5, great. Wednesday, Hebrew school again is in the afternoon, beginning at 3:30. The Channing Daughters trip, I believe, is on Tuesday. Is that right? Anybody? Tuesday, good. Neil was a little fast to respond to that one. I think he's been looking forward to it. That's a good one, right? Channing Daughters is very nice. And also, I wanted to note, because I'm not sure off the top of my head what the date is, but we're going to have the first bestowing of a really remarkable scholarship that was driven really from within our social justice group in particular, to support both students, part of our community and part of our wider community here. And I believe that we're going to have a Shabbat in which we're going to get a chance to actually celebrate that fact. So do you guys, can you? June 17th. I knew this is good. I got my people right at the front. June 17th. So mark your calendars. Definitely want you to be here for that and to celebrate this really wonderful idea that became something real very quickly in unheard of time. And it's something that I think is going to support a lot of our young people. And as I said, both within our community here at the temple and within our Sag Harbor wider East End community as well. So that's really something wonderful to look forward to. Before we even get there, the holiday of Shavuot is coming up. It's part of the reason why we're counting the Omer to remind ourselves. It begins at sundown on June 4th, which is a Saturday evening. And as we've done the last few years, we're partnering with our friends at the Jewish Center of the Hamptons and my friend Rabbi Josh Franklin. And both he and I and our colleague and also fellow member Rabbi David Wyman are going to each have an opportunity to teach something. So that will be, again, Saturday night, June 4th, beginning at 7 o'clock. JCOH has been kind enough to host in person. They have their own COVID protocols, which are very similar to ours, but all that information will come this week. If you want to come in person, you'll just have to register, but it will also be available online for anybody who chooses to watch by stream as well. And then, of course, the following day on Sunday morning at 10 o'clock, we'll have our Shavuot service, which includes the service of Yizkor. That will all be virtual only for that Sunday. Beyond that, please pay attention to your e-blasts, to your calendars, all of those good things, and it will remind you of everything that we have coming up and a whole summer's worth of stuff that is really very exciting. Shelley, is there anything that I forgot that you wanted to mention? Yes, thank you very much. Very good. Okay, thank you, Shelley. That's why Shelley's always my savior. So starting next Friday night, our services shift to a new time from 6 o'clock to 6:30. If the weather is accommodating, services will be right outside the door you walked in this evening. The only key, as Shelley said, is to please bring chairs of your own, beach chairs, or if you prefer, you can sit on a towel of some sort in that nice grassy area in the front. For those that have any trouble physically or you need some extra assistance, whatever it might be, please let us know and we'll provide a chair for you. But anybody who can bring their own chair will be very helpful. Most of our chairs are actually still in storage. So again, that'll be every Friday night through the rest of summer, 6:30. And again, weather permitting, we'll be outside every time that we can. And if not, be right inside here as well. And we're also beginning in July and August, we'll get back to our Shabbat by the Bay services, which will be happening over at Havens Beach as well. So a lot more of that information to come soon. But Shelley, thank you for reminding me about that as well. And, as a last word, a lot of great stuff happening at the temple, a lot of renovation stuff that's happening. And thank you to Rivlin, who jumped right in after Michael Heller moved to Greece and has been taking some amazing shots. So, Rivlin, yeah. Oh. That's wonderful. So just to say that to everybody who was on the stream, Rivlin said that the Social Justice Committee is collecting, let's say lightly used, but, still in good shape, suitcases of various sizes that are going to be large suitcases only that are going to be used and sent to Queens, which will be filled with materials and supplies that will then be sent to the Ukraine. So if you have anything that's taking up space in your house, this is a great opportunity for everybody. My grandmother, Alaha Shalom, she had like 1,000 suitcases, which just as a last college reference, whenever we would come to visit, she would send us home with briskets. And so we became instantly our favorite friends, but she would give us basically a throwaway suitcase just to transport brisket. So I'm sorry we don't have access to her stuff, but I'm sure each of us probably, if we think about it, has at least one suitcase. And so again, if you need any help, Rivlin will be happy to be a point person. All the information was in the e-blast. If you have any questions, you can certainly let me know. But thank you again to our Social Justice Committee for taking the lead and really being that change. All of this stuff, again, relates very much to what I was speaking about earlier this evening. So with all of that, again, a hearty Mazal Tov to our graduates, to their families, and of course to Jessica and Izzy who are watching at home, we hope. And, just remember, again, we love you and we're proud of you. And really, it's just great everybody was here tonight to help to celebrate. So before we do Kiddush and we say goodbye to each other, I think tonight we'll close with Shalom Aleichem. And Shalom Aleichem is on page... Somebody always finds it before I do. Here you go. Page 627. And page 627. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Asharet, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem leshalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Baruchuni leshalom malachei hashalom malachei elyon. Mi melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Tzedchem leshalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Mi melech malchei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We'll now rise as we turn to page 123 for Kiddush. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam ohorei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava u'v'ratzon inchilanu zikaron lemahaseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila lemikra'e kodesh Zecher litziat Mitzrayim, ki banu v'acharta, ve'otanu kidashta, mikol hamim, ve'shabbat kodshecha, ve'ahava u'v'ratzon inchaltanu, baruch atah Adonai, nekadesh ha-shabbat. Amen. L'chaim and Shabbat Shalom, and again, Mazal Tov, just wonderful stuff all around. Celebrate our graduates for sure. Hey, Fran. Hey. Okay, how you doing, Fran? Oh, so he got his BD or his doctorate thing? Oh, so it's even longer than that as an actual rabbi. Oh, wow, that's 25 years. Oh, that must have been great. That's phenomenal. Thank you for coming. I'll drop him a note. I know he doesn't know me so well, but I'll drop a note just to, I heard the note through you. That's all, Yeah, but that's so sweet. I'm glad he was able to actually have that celebration. Yeah, no, I was just going to say, that's the thing about planning anything right now. Is you plan for the best and you have a backup plan in case it doesn't work out. But yeah, no, of course. It's really the only option. Anyway, but that's really wonderful. Thank you for telling me. I'll definitely let him know. Great. I'll see you soon. Yeah. No, it will work out. It's just a question of which of those days and the timing of those days. But I didn't know that there was a new thing happening. I mean, that's like, I did, but somehow I didn't know it. You know, the pictures are unbelievable. And you still come to shul. Instead of sitting there, that's, I know, but I mean, sitting there watching that view, that's, no, that is the best way. I only saw the emails right before Shabbos, and I figured I was going to see you guys in person and be able to come. So, for sure. But I'll call you this week, and then we'll just figure out a date from there. That'd be great. Yeah. I can't hear you. You'll see me at the wedding I did last night. So hard to get people to say I'm in. It's not so hard. I'm in. Okay. All right. Hey, guys.